Milwaukee's the home of the oldest curling club in the United States. And in just a few minutes, Debby Wolniak learns about this ancient Scottish sport from club member Richard Barnes. And then Tom Newbauer joins Lynn Niklasch and Don Borchert to try for panfish on a Waukesha County lake. But first, we'll visit the Wild Rose Fish Hatchery to learn about a new high-tech tagging system for the Great Lakes. I'm Dan Small, and it's time once again for Outdoor Wisconsin.
Summer to fall, winter to spring, from Green Bay to where the St. Croix sings, from Kettle Moraine to Superior Shore, outdoor Wisconsin, outdoor Wisconsin.
Lake Michigan's fantastic salmon and trout fishing depends on the annual stocking of several million fish by state agencies in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. Because of increased natural reproduction, though, there's some concern we may actually be stocking too many fish. To learn more, we went to the State Fish Hatchery in Wild Rose, where a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service team was tagging Chinook fingerlings. Great Lakes data analyst Chuck Bronte explained what his team was doing. Chuck, tell us what's going on here.
Well, the trailer we're standing in is a $1.3 million piece of equipment that's designed to automatically adipose fin clip and coated wire tag fish at a rapid rate of speed. We're here at the Wild Rose State Fish Hatchery tagging Chinook salmon. The ultimate effect is to get a better handle on the impact of stocking Chinook, tow, and even lake trout. We're doing this with lake trout as well. We're trying to restore lake trout. That's one of the international initiatives on the Great Lakes. The states are interested in preserving the multi-billion-dollar sport fishery they have. And right now, with the ecosystem changing so rapidly across the entire Great Lakes, knowing more about the impact and the efficacy of your stocking rates makes good biological sense, and it also makes good economic sense. The vision of the program is basically to provide a full suite of services to the states and the tribes, starting with tagging services, then tag recovery services, helping the states recover the tags from the creel, but also providing biostatistical services like experimental design development, database management services to house all the recovery and tagging data, and also to help cooperatively analyze the data once all the tag returns are in. So the idea here is that the fish are basically pumped into a sorting device that measures their length to 1/10 of a millimeter, diverts them into one of 6 different tagging lines that are set up for a specific length range of fish, and the fish are quickly have their adipose fin clip cut off, and then go down to a tagging device which inserts a coated wire tag into the nose. Once it goes through 2 quality control checks, if it has an adequate fin clip and contains a coated wire tag, it'll move out to the hatchery to a waiting raceway and ready to be stocked into Lake Michigan.
Now, how many fish are processed here at Wild Rose, and how about lake-wide for Lake Michigan?
Okay, at Wild Rose here, they have about 700,000 Chinook salmon that are produced every year, give or take a few thousand. We're right now in our last day of tagging, and basically tomorrow we'll be done. We've been here about 10 days. We can process about between 70 and 90,000 fish a day. As far as Lake Michigan goes, and the whole program, we're actually tagging all the Chinook for Lake Michigan and Huron on the U.S. side. That's about 4.3 million fish that's stocked by Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Michigan, of which a majority of those will go, about 1.3 will go into Lake Huron and the balance in Lake Michigan.
Why are we tagging fish here that go into Lake Michigan?
Well, the big question here is that all the states want to know is the primary question is what's the level of natural reproduction? By marking and tagging all your hatchery fish, looking at the proportion of fish that come back with and without tags gives you a best estimate of what the levels of natural reproduction are. Using that information, the states can better balance their stocking rates in order to achieve a better balance between predators out there and the available prey.
Now, these are Chinook salmon. How old are they, and what will happen to them next?
Well, these Chinook are about 5 months old. Within the next several weeks, they'll be stocked out by the state of Wisconsin at several locations along the Wisconsin shoreline.
And then what happens when they're caught eventually?
Well, what happens is that we're going to have a recovery system in place starting this year where we will be assisting, the Fish and Wildlife Service will be assisting the states in recovering tagged fish. We will place 8 what we call headhunters at critical spots around Lake Michigan and the Michigan shoreline of Lake Huron to recover the coated wire tag fish that are caught by anglers, but also looking at the proportion of wild fish as well. And that'll continue on for many years. We hope to have 5 year classes fully tagged in the study and then have at least 3 to 8 years of recovery after that. When the fish are recovered from the field, we have a laboratory set up at the Green Bay Fish and Wildlife Conservation Office where all the heads that are cut off from the fish in the field can come back to our lab. We extract the tags, read them, and the intent here is to develop a large relational database to house all the tagging and the recovery data so that all agencies can cumulatively analyze those returns and make some sense and make some management decisions.
The Wild Rose Hatchery role has been to stock trout and salmon in Lake Michigan for almost 40, 50 years. So we raise about 750,000 Chinook salmon a year, and this is the second year of all the fish being marked for this program. The Chinook salmon that are being marked in the trailer were started as eggs collected at Strawberry Creek in Sturgeon Bay. They were brought back to the hatchery. They were disinfected in an iodine solution to kill pathogens. They were incubated, hatched, and reared initially in the cold water building at the top of the hill. Then when the fish reach about 250 fish per pound, or about 2.5 inches long, they're transferred from the building to these pavilions where they're in now. Then they're thinned just a couple weeks before they start marking to get the proper number of fish for each particular code. For this year, 2012, I believe there are 9 different codes of Chinook salmon that will be stocked in Lake Michigan. And the code will be specific for which hatchery it came from and which location, though some locations may be lumped. As an example would be the fish in Manitowoc and the East and West Twin Rivers will probably all be one code. The fish that will be stocked in near the Oconto and the Menominee River in Marinette County and Oconto County will be one code. But there are other places that will get a single designation, such as Strawberry Creek in Sturgeon Bay, the Root River in Racine. Milwaukee will probably get its own code. The state's role in the process is to provide the fish, help with the marking, though our help is very minimal, and help with interpretation, collection of heads, possible interpretation of data. It's really minimal, but the state is getting a maximum amount of information from it because all the information we get from this operation will help determine the proper stocking rates in Lake Michigan for years to come. What we're seeing today isn't important on a day-to-day basis, but it's really important long-term for us to get the best balance of predators in Lake Michigan. If we don't know what's being produced naturally in some rivers, or if we don't know what's immigrating from Lake Huron into northern Lake Michigan, we could easily overstock the Lake Michigan. We could collapse the forage base, and we could end up with a very minimal salmon fishery, and no one wants to see that. It's done tremendous over the years. The state, all the state agencies have really balanced their stocking as best they can to match the forage. And these are very new times with all the invasive species, the zebra mussels, the quagga mussels, the rough, and it's just one more piece of the puzzle with all these new species, we can't keep stocking the way we did in the past. So this is really bringing all the state agencies into the modern era of information. You can't make good decisions without good information. And so this is very important for providing us with good information.
Curling is a Scottish sport that began outdoors on frozen fjords, but has since moved indoors to manicured ice as smooth as a skating rink. Let's join Debby Wolniak and Richard Barnes at the Milwaukee Curling Club to learn more about this ancient Scottish sport of sliding stones on ice.
This club was started in 1845. They actually started curling on the Milwaukee River in 1843. Scottish immigrants came into Milwaukee, started curling in 1843, and then 2 years later started the club. Portage has a curling club that was started 5 years later, but this club is the oldest club in continuous existence in the United States. Back in the late 1800s, Milwaukee would go down to Chicago and curl against the Chicago Curling Club, and they would come up here. In fact, in those days, you would carry your own rocks. So each rock weighs 42 pounds, and so you would take your rocks on the train and go down to Chicago and curl against your opponent. And Milwaukee beat Chicago on a pretty regular basis in those days. Whole game started in Scotland back in the 1500s. The Scottish people would come down from the hills into the lochs, and they would curl on the lakes in Scotland. That takes a lot of strength. Here we have very keen ice, keen meaning it's smooth, it's fast, you can deliver a stone easily. But of course in the old days, when they were out on the rivers and on the lakes, it took a lot of strength to be able to throw a stone down the sheet. The object of the game is to deliver the rocks to the other end of the sheet, which is like a lane in bowling. And at the other end is a series of circles called a house. And the object is to put your stone as close to the center of the house by the end of the play as possible. There are 16 stones that are going to be thrown during the course of an end. An end is like an inning in baseball. And those stones that are closest to the house then score, and only one team can score. So all the stones from the same team that are closest to the center of the house end up getting the points. Typical game is 8 ends. So it would be 16 stones thrown down one direction, 16 stones thrown back the other direction, 8 times. The game takes about 2 hours. Each end takes about 15 minutes to play. Basically, it's a very easy sport to get into. You don't need a whole lot of equipment. The club can provide brooms, or what we call brooms, or stabilizers, and of course the rocks are provided. So a person just needs a pair of rubber-soled shoes to curl. On the bottom of the rubber-soled shoe, we can either put duct tape to provide a smooth surface, or we can put a Teflon slider, and that allows the curler to slide out when they're delivering the stone. And then when they're getting ready to sweep the stone, they can take the slider off, and then it's just a rubber-soled shoe, and that way they don't slip on the ice.
What is that stone thrower thinking as they're putting that stone out on the ice?
They're concentrating on the skip's broom at the other end of the sheet, and so they're aiming directly at where that skip tells the person they need to be throwing the stone. So they're concentrating on that. The sweepers sweep in front of the rock in order to control the direction and the speed of the rock. When they sweep in front of it, it melts the ice just slightly and allows the stone to not slow down. And the faster the stone goes, the less it will curl. And so they're controlling in their sweeping for both the direction and the speed of the stone.
So is that where the name of the sport came from?
That's correct. Oh. As you release the stone, it will naturally curl one direction or the other.
With the people that are down at the other end, what are they doing? Are they strategizing at all, or?
What's called the skips are the captains of each of the two teams. Figure out the strategy of how they want the rocks placed in order to be able to accomplish the end of being successful at the end of that and by typically placing the rocks in front of the house to block their opponent from getting into the house. What we're working on today is to build a new curling facility. So we have facilities that would be available to all ages and all abilities. And so the idea is to build a new facility that would have more sheets of ice and would provide greater accessibility for people even with disabilities. One of the areas of development today in curling, there are over 1 million curlers, but one of the areas is wheelchair curling. And unfortunately, our current club doesn't have access for people who are disabled. We'd like to see that change. We'd like to be able to provide access to all people with all abilities.
And you're getting all age groups and people involved.
We have, at the Milwaukee Curling Club, we have 24 children in the age of 6 to 11 that are in the junior program. We work with Homestead High School, and we have 350 students as part of their gym program that come over and take lessons. And then we have curlers all the way up into the middle 80s. So it's a lifetime sport. You can start as a junior at 6 years of age and go into your 90s if you want to.
So if someone's interested, how should they possibly get involved?
They can check our website. There's MilwaukeeCurlingClub.com, or there's Milwaukee Curling Association.org. And they could go to the website and there's contact information there. There are probably more clubs in Wisconsin than any other state in the union. It's a gentleman's sport. Historically, the practice is that you only speak positively of your opponent and of your own team. At the beginning of the game, you shake hands with your opponent and say, "Good curling." And at the end of the game, you shake hands once again and say, "Nice game, good curling."
Before you go ice fishing, always be sure the ice is safe. Let's join Tom Newbauer, Lynn Niklasch, and Don Borchert for a panfish ice fishing outing on a lake in Waukesha County.
Well, I'm out on one of the many lakes in southeastern Wisconsin with a couple of good anglers. Oh, wait, I got a fish on. I got to bring this baby up. Wait a minute. Uh-oh, this is a better one, Don.
All right.
You got to get the Vexlar out of the way he's wrapped
Oh, yeah,
around
there
it.
you go. That's a nice
There
one.
we go.
There's a lot of those in here like
Yeah?
that size, yep.
I'm out here with Don Borchert, longtime angler,
Yeah.
and our good friend Lynn Niklasch, who's a full-time guide, summer guide and winter guide. And where is Lynn? He's out there setting up tip-ups.
Yes, he is.
He's looking for those big pike in deeper water, but we're actually after these guys here. These beautiful bluegills in Wisconsin. Now, granted, in the winter time, Don, our expectations are lowered.
Yep.
Because, I mean, let's face it, we don't always catch as many as we want or as big as we want. But if you get some nice 7-inchers, 7 to 8 inchers, those are very filletable. Those are very nice fish.
Absolutely.
And so you've been fishing these lakes for quite a while, huh?
Yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin. I've lived in this area now for about 7 years.
Okay.
Lived on this particular body of water for 6.5 years. So.
Yeah, this is nice. A lot of the lakes in Wisconsin. Oh, there you go. Got him?
Yeah, we got him. I don't think he's quite as nice as yours. No, not quite as nice. But you got to have some to grow into the big ones, right?
Well, listen, tell us about your Vexlar. Now, there's a lot of electronic equipment out there. There's the Markhams, Vexlars, a lot of different ones. But you were telling me earlier about these that you purchased last year.
Yeah, so these are your typical Vexlar FL18s, and out here in where we're fishing in pretty much a bowl. So the lake tops out about 40 feet deep in the middle and comes up to where we are about 20 feet, and is very featureless, so the fish tend to suspend. And without good electronics, you're basically fishing blind out here. So you really need to be able to see at the depths they're hovering here, as you can see on the Vex.
Right. I mean, I can see the fish on the Vexlar. I can see where my jig is.
Yep.
And I just missed that guy. You know, I put a spring bobber on, and I don't think I really need it.
Nope. I tend to shy away from the spring bobbers. I think sometimes it interferes with the hook set a little bit, and when they're not biting real light, and these fish here haven't been biting real light, they've been hitting it pretty good. You can feel them on there.
Yeah. Well, here's our buddy Lynn. tournament angler, ice guide, muskie guide, walleye guide. Come on over here, Lynn.
Get a bucket for you to stand on.
For me to sit on?
Sit on.
All right. See, I don't have that nice stuff like you guys have. I just have jeans on. So, Lynn, tell us about what you were doing out there in the deeper water.
What I was doing is setting tip-ups up.
Yeah.
Basically what I do is, here's one, but I use Beaver Dam tip-ups, and I use a Power Pro leader, about 30-pound treble hook. Sometimes I use gold ones, sometimes I use red ones, sometimes I put beads on. I like to use no weight. I think it lets the minnow move freely down below, and it's easier for the minnow to get away when a pike or a bass game predator fish, would chase it. It's easier to get away, but it can only go so far, obviously. So I think, though, you get one?
Yeah, we've been catching them. I caught one decent one.
Yeah, nice.
This one isn't.
There's
a monster.
No, I would say we should put that on the tip-up.
Yeah, which is actually legal in Wisconsin.
Yes,
you
it
can
is.
do that.
If it's caught out of the same lake.
Right, caught out of the same lake, and this would count as part of my limit if I did
right.
that. Right.
So
But
what
anyway.
I do is I set the tip-ups out there like that, and then I put them about 2/3 of the way from the bottom. And it don't matter if I'm in 10 feet or if I'm in 30, 40 feet.
Okay.
About 2/3 of the way from the bottom, I think the fish roam pretty good at that depth, and I get a lot of bites that way.
Okay.
Ideally, if we were tip-up fishing, what I would do is I would set up a line of them, some shallow, some middle depth,
There
and
we
some
go. This
deep.
feels like a nicer one.
Ooh, Don got one.
Yeah,
It's a nicer one.
He's
too.
interrupting you.
Sorry,
yeah.
Lynn, I'll interrupt your broadcast to bring you this keeper fish.
Yeah,
I think
to
I
bring
got.
you this nice.
This is a really nice
Oh,
one
that's
there.
a nice
Nice.
bluegill.
There you go, guys.
See, now those are the kind that people want to keep, take home, fillet, and they're delicious.
And if you spend enough time out here in a day, you can weed through enough of the little ones, and you can
Right.
bring home a nice limit of these.
And that's any lake.
Yeah,
in
any lake,
southeastern
right.
Wisconsin. You can get here. Yeah, let them get a good look at that baby. That's a nice fish. That's a pretty fish
yeah,
too.
good color for
Got
the
that
wintertime.
nice orange. Oh,
color.
You got one too there?
yeah. Anyway, Lynn, let us stop interrupting you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Continue telling us what you were telling us. Oh, I got a crappie.
Oh, there you go. Nice crappie. You'll get a mixed bag
Got
out
a
here.
little
Perch and
crappie. But anyway, I'm sorry, Lynn. You were saying about the tip-ups.
Usually I like to set them up in rows so I can put them in shallow in the morning, and I see more action shallow in the morning, and then as the day goes on, noontime, the fish kind of roam out in the deeper water, and just about 2/3 of the way from the bottom, I usually catch a lot of big fish in the middle part of the day, where most of the guys will walk off the lake telling you it's a couple hours in the morning or a couple hours in the evening, but it's basically location. If you're fishing where the fish
Sure.
are in the morning, you're going to catch them. If
Because
you're
they
not,
move around, yeah.
right? And it's kind of neat to see if you got them in rows, 10 feet of water, 15 foot of water, 25 feet of water. You can see them go up in 10 feet, and then you can see them go up in 15, and then you'll see them go up in 20. You'll be chasing for certain depth tip-ups, and then you'll see them, watch it go back down, to the middle.
And that just isn't for
shallows
northerns, but also bass too.
That's true. That's true. I would not set the tip-ups 3/4 of the way down like that, or 2/3 of the way down, if I was fishing for walleyes.
So if you look on your Vex right now,
Yeah.
you can see that you've got a series of fish all the way off the bottom.
Yeah, this is showing about 15 feet of water.
Yep.
And I've got fish marking anywhere from 6 feet, 6, 7, 8 feet, all the way down to about 13.
Yep.
But most of them are hanging around 10 feet of water.
Yep. And I'm seeing
Little
over here,
less
I've
than
got
10.
a pretty good concentration from 15 up to about 11 here.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty good school underneath us right now.
Oh, there's a big school down here.
And a lot of times what I find is if you can get on the edge of that, like you're marking fish, in a 5 or 6 feet thickness in the water column.
Yeah.
If you might find that the bigger ones are are more on the bottom edge of it.
Oh,
or
really?
More on
Yeah.
the top edge of it.
Jeez, another one.
Well, Lynn, you better get a rod.
I'm thinking I better do that.
Oh, this is a nicer one. Well, maybe not. Look big coming through the ice. A little magnification never hurts.
The Madison Fishing Expo runs from February 22nd through the 24th at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison. I'll be there all weekend, so stop by and say hello, or pick up a ticket for a chance to win a hydrojet-powered canoe by Wilderness Scout. Well, next time, Debby Wolniak explores a cave at Ledgeview Nature Center in Calumet County. I'll fish for Lake Michigan trout and salmon with fishing bug charters of Racine. And Tony Wood plays a game of snowshoe baseball in Lake Tomahawk. I'm Dan Small. Join us for these features and more next week on Outdoor Wisconsin.
Free yourself like an eagle in the air. Feed yourself like a bear in the blackberry. Like a hawk, perch and stare. Outdoor Wisconsin. When the work in life is way too much, when you're in too deep and way out of touch, lace up your boots, get out of town, take a walk in the wild, or sit down and listen. Listen to the sounds of the critters of the night, the wind in the leaves and the little river run, coyote brother howling in the full moonlight. Outdoor Wisconsin. Hike, fish, hunt, camp, sail, canoe, ski, photograph, laugh, do what you want to. Stick your nose where the wild rose grows. Outdoor Wisconsin. Outdoor Wisconsin.